Hi, I'm Neve Daly, author and creator of Yoga for Menopause and Beyond since 2015, and creator of Yoga Plus for Bone Health classes and teacher training since 2022. Thanks so much for signing up to receive this class, which is for yoga teachers only. If you're a yoga student or practitioner, you might be interested to go to my website to see how you can work with me either one-to-one or join my live online classes. Why did I create this training? Well, for a start, over 50% of women over 50 will develop osteopenia, and then a significant number of those will go on to develop osteoporosis. As most people's joy in yoga continues through life, it would be an unfortunate thing to be advised against it at a time when maybe we need it most. Some osteoporosis societies actively advise against yoga for people with low bone density, while others recommend it, but only for a bit of stretching and stress relief. And before you react and think, how could they possibly advise against yoga? Note that if someone is not trained in awareness of osteoporosis, there may well be postures and practices in a yoga class that would be dangerous for people with osteoporosis, particularly of the spine. A safe yoga practice can have huge benefits to people with osteoporosis. A little bit later, I'll be giving you an introduction into what extras are in Yoga Plus for Bone Health that actively help reduce fracture risk, no matter what the bone density score. But first, I'd like to help you recognize who in your class may or may not have osteoporosis. This is quite binary language because most of the research into osteoporosis is in cis females and cis males. If you have females in your class who are over 50, more than 50% of them will have osteopenia, that's low bone density, which is also a risk factor for vertebral compression fractures. And some of them, like me, may have osteoporosis. As the years go by, the people with osteopenia are very likely to develop osteoporosis. As the years go by, we become more prone to fracture no matter what our density score, in fact. In addition, if your students are Caucasian or Asian, they're at higher risk. If they are small boned or of low weight, they're of higher risk. And that's not including all the medical conditions that they may have currently or have been in their past that can contribute to osteoporosis risk. How would you feel if one of your long-standing students came to you and told you they had a recent diagnosis of osteopenia or osteoporosis? Would you know how to handle that conversation in a way that is empathic but also confident? It's a really difficult conversation, and it's likely that that conversation will be had when that person's diagnosis is new to them. So it's a really delicate time, a time potentially of grief and fear before that person has worked out what they're going to do. They'll be navigating a lot of confusion and a lot of worry. There may be self-blame also as they look back on their lives and the things that they didn't or did do that may have contributed to their diagnosis. How do you as a yoga teacher feel about meeting that difficult conversation? One of the things that can really help you is knowledge. And the other thing that can really help you, of course, is something that can only happen over time, which is experience of meeting other people who have osteoporosis diagnoses. Yoga Plus for Bone Health really offers both of those things because you're learning in a group, and a lot of the teachers who come to me for that training will have a diagnosis themselves or will have been working with people with diagnoses, or they have family members who have low bone density. So what does bone health really mean when I say Yoga Plus for Bone Health? It means in this instance risk for fracture reduction, because yoga may help to build bone density in people who have been sedentary to begin with. And there are also Pilates elements in this training, which can also help, but they don't help for long. And the research, unfortunately, does not show that yoga or Pilates can meaningfully, consistently, and in the long term maintain bone density or reverse osteoporosis, despite some claims you may have heard to the contrary. We do look into the research in Yoga Plus for Bone Health training, and it's not always what we want to hear. But we look also into the research of what is good to hear, which is that there are some things already in yoga that can help reduce fracture risk, ways that we can adjust it to reduce that fracture risk more, but also evidence-based protocols that can help reduce fracture risk both in class and outside class in your students' life day to day. Why is normal yoga not enough for people with osteoporosis? Well, of course, if you're going to a teacher who doesn't understand the things that are contraindicated for people with low bone density, then of course there is a risk for fracture. But it's more than that. It's that there may be low strength demands in a yoga practice, especially one that's super gentle, but also one that is repetitive and that your students may have been doing year in, year out. At the beginning, it helped increase muscular strength, but as the years and months go by, demands become less significant for the muscles, and muscles and bones need consistently higher stress in order to stimulate the growth of strength. So we use different language and different intentions and different practices within yoga poses and other exercises to increase muscular demand on the mat. We also add elements of Pilates, and we also do add resistance bands and using a yoga bolster to add that kind of strength demand. But alongside the added strength, there are evidence-based approaches to reducing fall risk, which unfortunately needs to be more than just training in static balancing poses. That means we add neurological tools to stimulate the vestibular system, the inner ear. We also add dynamic balance training and learning how to do that in ways that stimulate the brain and balance centers, challenging our balance in a way that is much more robust than in any yoga class, so that our vestibular system, our visual system, and our proprioceptive systems become more resilient and tolerant to the kinds of things that actually make people fall. I want to help you go away from this class with a few of the basics about adjusting some yoga poses to make them a little safer, but also adding some strength and some more novel balance practices that are not in a normal yoga class, but that's even before adding things like resistance bands and some of the more complex neurological tools. You don't always have to overhaul your teaching when you're teaching people with vulnerabilities. And certainly you can have fun learning all about the use of resistance bands and neurological tools. And they can be used just in little ways in your normal classes to support many people, more than just those with osteoporosis. I wouldn't want you to think that you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and not teach in the way that you love. So I hope that this little practice will give you some ideas that help you keep your students safer, help you feel a little more confident, and maybe, who knows, one day down the line, you might like to join Yoga Plus for bone health training. So the only prop you're going to need for this class is a bolster, which could also be a chair. And we're going to pop it down to the side for now. We're going to start with a little warm up, and I'm going to go slowly first. We're going to twist, but let the heel that comes behind you come off the floor. And twist slowly the other way, letting the heel that comes behind you come off the floor. Come back to the center and bring one hand to your pelvis, one to your chest. When we're twisting in this moment, we're trying to keep chest and pelvis moving reasonably together. So the heel coming off the floor will stop us forcing the chest around in opposition to the pelvis. The dynamic twist that this is going to turn into needs to be done with the spine in a small amount of twist. So in this lovely twist now that you can speed up, once you let the heel that's behind you come off the floor, you're able to let your student or yourself twist in a pleasant way that doesn't jar into the spine. The point of your spine that's most vulnerable to vertebral compression fractures is your middle and upper spine. So think about keeping your chest broad and lots of space between the fronts of the vertebrae, and then come back to center. Let's start with a little bouncing. You can also add some heel taps. If your student has had a vertebral compression fracture, they'll be advised against impact training. That's running, jumping, or even heel taps until the vertebral compression fracture has healed. In that case, just bouncing is fine, and you can't tick all the boxes for your students every time. And let's pause and take a little breather. The next thing we're going to do is just show you an adaptation of a forward bend, and we're going to use our bolster here. So pyramid pose is a forward fold, and when we bring it all the way to the classic version, where your trunk is resting down over the length of your front leg. Most of your students, and indeed you, will be in some significant spinal flexion if we go all the way down over the front leg. A rule of thumb: when we're coming into a forward fold, we do it with neutral spine. There will be some flexion that we can't see from the outside, and we are getting a back stretch, but we really want to make sure that there is space between the pubic bone and the navel, and space, more importantly, between the navel and the breastbone, the sternum. Remembering that this is the area that can fracture most readily, the middle and upper back. We think more about the lift of the chest. Bringing your hands to the bolster gives you an opportunity for a stopping point, stopping that intensity of desire to go further. And we can work into a beautiful bit of mobilization for the hamstrings and the hips here without putting the spinal vertebrae at risk. Really what we're avoiding in terms of flexion is flexion under load, which would mean something like holding your toe and pulling yourself down, or holding the back of your shin and drawing yourself down, which is very common, of course, in standing forward fold uttanasana. You'll notice I have a tiny bend in my front knee. That reduces the strain on my hamstrings, which reduces the strain on my lower back, which reduces the likelihood of my spine flexing. Let's change sides just for the sake of your practice. And as we move, we think of the most important bit of movement that you can teach your students if they have a diagnosis of osteoporosis, which is the hip hinge, which is the ability to bend down to reach something above the floor by bending at the hips, which is done by teaching someone to bend their knees like chair pose, and then bring their bum backwards as if they're closing a door with their bum. And then they can lift something higher above the floor, or if not, they can come to squat to lift it up, or they can bring one knee down to then lift it up. So in your pyramid pose, you are using the hip hinge in that front hip. Draw the hip back, draw the sternum forward, keep that length, picture the fronts of the vertebrae with delicious space between them. Remember, it's the fronts of the vertebrae that are more prone to fracture than the backs of the vertebrae. Taking a few yummy breaths. And then on your way out, you need to be careful not to cue rolling up through the spine. So instead, bend the left knee, come up to the fingertips, step up into a chair pose, hands on the hips, and push down through the feet to come up to vertical. Next, we're going to go into that idea of balancing poses that need to be a little more than just a really calm tree pose on a beautiful flat surface. Remember, when you're adding any challenge to a balanced pose, you need to suggest to your vulnerable students to find a wall and hold on to it. The kindest thing you can do as a teacher is bring everyone to the wall so no one feels exposed and they can choose whether to use it or not. I'm going to assume you know how to do tree pose, and I'm going to jump straight to a dynamic surface challenge. We're going to use our bolster again, but you could choose to pick up your mat and crumple it roughly on the floor and stand on that instead as a kind of wobble board. So we're going to step with either foot onto your wobble board or your crumpled mat or your bolster and come up into a tree pose that you can hold with either your toes on the bolster and your heel on your shin or ankle, or your foot on your inner calf. I wouldn't tend to get someone up into their full tree pose with their leg up here, because if they start to wobble, they've just got a lot further to get to the ground to save themselves from falling. I would also keep the hands wherever they instinctively want them, chest, hips, wide, or up high if they want. And that may be a lot of challenge for your students, and you may not initially need to add anything more. Give them some time experiencing this. If they're using a wall, aim for one finger on the wall instead of a whole flat of the hand. Let's just go ahead and change sides just for the sake of your practice. And many of your students will have one leg that's wobblier than the other. That's quite normal and quite a constant that I see in students as we get older. Certainly has changed for me. You'll notice the wobble of your ankle and point them to the pressure sensors in their feet, which are sending so much fabulous information to their brain or even their spinal cord and back again to save them. Remind them that their neurology is working really hard and really well to keep them safe here. And when you're ready, step down. While we stand behind our wobbly surface, we're just going to practice a little neuro drill. You're going to pick a spot on the wall in front of you and keep your eyes fixed on that spot and turn your head to the right, to the left. Turn it up, keep your eyes fixed, turn your head down. Turn your head up to the right, keep your eyes fixed on the object, down to the left. Turn it up to the left and down to the right and back to center. I'm going to jump you into both challenges, so a dual task, which is wobbly surface plus head movements and an eye exercise. If it's too much, just stay with the soft surface balance. So hands wherever you need them, fix your gaze ahead of you and turn your head left, right, up, down. Up to the right, down to the left, up to the left, down to the right, center. You may have forgotten to keep your eyes fixed. Let's remind ourselves to do that on the other leg. So keeping your eyes fixed ahead, you're in your balance pose. Turn your head left, right, up, down, up, left, down, right. Stay eyes fixed, up, right, down, left, center, and step down. If you found that easy, step up on the first leg. If you found it hard, do the same again. For those of you who found it easy, up on your first leg and take your finger out in front of you and move your finger, head and eyes simultaneously, right, left, up, down, up, right, down, left, up, left, down, right, and step down. You may have noticed, or you may not have because you were focusing on your hand, that I was really wobbly there. That's what we want to get from meaningful balance training. You might see now the value of bringing everyone to the wall. We're going to come down to the floor now. And of course, that's a really important part of Yoga Plus for Bone Health, is teaching people to get to the floor safely. For our route to the floor, we're going to step one knee down and the other knee down. A student can use a chair to hold on to or a wall to get there. There's more to the safe route to the floor in a moment, but we're going to do a practice on our knees. So you are very welcome, and I would advise that you pleat your mat for something to kneel on with one knee, let's say our left knee, and step your right foot forward. And you're going to be in a 90-90 position, back knee under hip, front foot under knee. You're going to pull the right foot back and push the left knee forward. So you'll feel a lot of engagement in your legs. We're going to bring our hands to our chest. They're not going to lever us in a twist ever, ever, ever. Think of lifting the chest and using the muscles of your waist to turn you to the right. Pull the right foot back, the left knee forwards. If you were to turn this into a risky pose for people with spinal osteoporosis, it would be your classic lunge elbow twist, where most people will have their back rounded and then they add a twist, and this is really more risky than twisting alone or spinal flexion alone. So flexion and twist, leave it out. So you really have to teach using the muscles of your trunk to twist you, not levering, and really check with your students, is the spine long? This pulling of the right foot back and pushing of the left knee forwards requires so much muscular strength that you can't flop your way into a twist. Let's go ahead and do the other side. We're preparing for a different twist here more than anything. Let's pull the left foot back and push the right knee forward. Bring your hands to your chest to keep them out of the way. You could even bring your hands behind you for more encouragement of opening the chest. Without any levering, use the muscles of your waist to turn your chest to the left. You don't need to go far. The shoulder can come back, but don't force it, and your head can come with you naturally. Use the muscles of your waist to bring you back to center. Keep pushing the right knee forward, the left foot back. That way you're working on strength as well of the legs and pelvic floor. And leg strength is directly related to reduced fall risk. Also reduced dementia risk. Let's come back to center and take your two knees down. Undo the pleat in your mat, and we're going to come to sit. The sage pose is really tempting to push yourself into it, and often is performed with a lot of flexion in the spine in people who don't have the flexibility to keep the chest lifted. Instead, a mermaid twist can work really well. So taking your feet off to the left, We bring our right hand easily in line with our right hip, slightly back. And we bring the left arm forwards, or it can rest on the right knee, but try not to lever. If it comes forward, you might be less likely to lever. As you begin to turn to the right, reach that arm forwards and up. So you feel this opening and lifting of the chest, and let your left buttock here, the back buttock, come off the floor, just like we did in the standing twist, and then come back to center. Reach with the arm forwards and up. As you turn to the right, let the left buttock lift. Don't push yourself into the twist, and come back. Let's flip around to the other side. These are great starters for twists for people with osteoporosis. And once they get used to the idea that the twist can't be levered, you may be able to bring them back to more traditional twists, as long as they don't jump back into levering. And taking the left hand just behind the left, and to the side of the left buttock, you can reach the right arm forward or keep it on the chest. Inhale, lift the chest into the hand if you have the hand on the chest. Turning to the left, lift the right buttock off the floor. And exhaling, easy back to center. Point people out to the pleasure here. Reaching the arm forwards or the chest into the hand, turning to the right. Feel that nice feel that nice pull in the front of the hip, and coming back. And one more time, breathing in to turn left, let the right buttock lift. So we're not straining to keep one part of the spine still and moving abruptly in just a couple of vertebrae. Coming back to center, take yourself into an easy seated position. One of the most important things we can do is get people to the floor safely. So I brought you onto our knees into 90-90, then you would come on to all fours. And from all fours, you would sit down on one hip, and you lie as long as you can out on your side. So not coming forward and lying onto your side, but extending that bottom arm up your mat. And if the shoulder can't tolerate that, you can bring it under and use the top hand to get you down to the floor with a long spine, rolling onto your back, ready to do stuff on your back, or as we're going to do here, rolling onto your front, ready for some stuff to do on your front. One of the most important things you can do, and my biggest free takeaway from this class for you as teachers, is to work on back strength, which actively reduces risk of fracture in the spines of people with osteoporosis. Cobra may not do it because you're using your arms just as much, if not more, than your back muscles. So we work with locust type poses, add bands and other ways in order to increase the intensity of what the back muscles have to do. And it's particularly the back muscles of extension. Extreme back bends are not a good idea, but pretty normal, achievable back bends are fine for mobility, but the strength work is much less extension in the spine and much more work on the extensor muscles. So it's not about passive, it's about really active and often quite difficult. Let's start with our head resting on the back of our hands and take a moment to think about the vertebrae of your spine. We don't want any back lift or any back bend to impact on a limited number of vertebrae, but we want to take them through the whole spine. So one of the ways we're going to do that is press the pelvis down, so we're less likely to do all the back bending in the middle of the lumbar spine, which you often see in yoga, almost like a right angle in people's lower back. As you press your pelvis down, you force that lumbar spine not to hang down towards the floor. Inhale. And as you exhale, just float your face and chest off your hands, not lifting your chin to look forward, but just letting the face look down towards the hands as it naturally would if you weren't thinking, how high can I go? And then we're going to come slowly down. Next time you come up, press your pelvis down and see if you, as your face and chest lift, you can also lift your left elbow and hand without pushing into your right hand. And inhale, come slowly down. Exhale, press your pelvis down, lift slowly up through head, chest, and right hand and elbow. You'll notice I'm lifting on the exhale, which is probably unusual for you. Inhale down. That's because that's the moment when the core is engaged. And I want you to have a little strength in the pelvic floor and abdomen as you're doing this. Not just the abdomen, but the pelvic floor as well, but only light. 3 out of 10 is fine. Inhale again. Exhale, press your pelvis down, try lift your face and chest, and then see if you can float both arms to touch your hands to your forehead, keeping your elbows high. Once you get here, you can either come down or we can hold isometrically, meaning we stay for up to about 30 seconds is a great isometric hold. Keep there, lift the pelvic floor a little, press the pelvis down a little so that you imagine the sensation of zipping up a pair of tight jeans from the pubic bone to the belly button. If you like, you could float your legs. That makes it slightly easier to go higher, but make sure you don't suddenly feel a lot of compression in your lower back, because our priority really here is the strength of the upper back. Lifting the legs is just for a bit of entertainment, but of course it strengthens the glutes and the muscles of the lumbar spine and the hamstrings too. Let's come slowly down. Take a little breather. In Yoga Plus for Bone Health, we add a lot with bands, blocks, and even using the bolster to help us with our back lifts. Because locust pose quite quickly will not give you the demand you need to really meaningfully increase back strength consistently. But it's a brilliant starting point. We're going to do a few more options, and we're going to start by bringing our fingertips to our temples. Inhale here. Exhale, press your pelvis down, lift your face and chest. Inhale, come slowly down. Exhale, press your pelvis down, lift your face and chest, and lift one leg. Stay up, lift the other leg. Stay up, lower the first leg, stay up, lower the second leg, and come down. Take your hands out behind you like airplane wings. Exhale to rise up. Inhale here. Exhale, lift both legs if you can. And we do what in Pilates is called perturbation, which is we're trying to stay stable while we perturb ourselves. And we're going to do that by suddenly bringing your left arm out to the left. Bring it back. Suddenly right arm up overhead and back. Left leg out to the left and back. Right leg out to the right and back. Kick your legs like you're going swimming, a real classic from Pilates. Come to stillness. Inhale here, lift through the pelvic floor, and exhale to come slowly down. The possibilities are endless. Let's roll over to our back safely by staying long in the spine. Use your leg and hand to help you. And as you come onto your back, we'll lift our feet carefully and take hold of our knees. Sit-ups or crunches are absolutely contraindicated for people with osteoporosis, but working core strength is important. How do we do it? Things like dead bug and plank, and we'll finish with a little core strengthener here. Bring your knees above your hips, keep your back ribs on the floor, so don't let this happen where the ribs flare up. And keep your shins parallel to the ceiling. Either hands on the floor beside you, or you can bring them up to the air and you could hold a bolster. We use a lot of bands in these options in Yoga Plus for Bone Health. If you want, you can straighten your right leg. If that's too much, just hold isometrically where you were. Keep your back ribs on the floor. Simply swap legs. Imagine you're pushing through peanut butter or wet cement as you alternate legs. Try and bring the knee back vertically over the hip when you return, not in here, which often happens. And return to change again. And return to change. Last change. Back. Take the arms overhead till you feel them getting a little heavier. You can imagine this would be hard work if you were holding a bolster. Keep your back ribs on the floor, feet and knees together. Straighten both legs on a diagonal. Isometric work. Keep your back ribs on the floor for 10, 9, I'm quivering already, 8, 7, but don't let the belly poke up or the ribs poke up. Keep the back ribs on the floor. Bring the legs higher if you feel at risk, or bend the knees. 3, 2, 1, and bring your feet, arms to the floor. Bring the soles of your feet together, your knees wide. Maybe drape your arms nice and high and wide, and we'll relax the pelvic floor. So important after toning it that we inhale, imagine the breath traveling down to your pelvic floor. And exhale, imagine keeping the pelvic floor soft as the breath releases through it. One more time. And then think about what you'd like for your relaxation pose. Really nice after working the floor to do a restorative back bend, to lie back over your bolster, even with the legs just neutral, or a cobbler pose, or lying on your side, cuddling your bolster, or popping your legs up the wall, anything you fancy. Just classic Shavasana. Remember that rest is as important as working on developing bone strength, muscle strength, and balance. And it is during rest and sleep that our bones are doing the building and our muscles are doing the building. So valuing this rest like a true yogi, feel the weight of your bones surrendering to the floor. Soft face, soft jaw. And softening our attitude towards ourselves. Letting go of self-blame. Letting go of fear and welcoming instead intelligent practice. And welcoming the possibility that whatever happens in terms of bone density, you can reduce your risk of fracture. So if we can avoid fracture, we can live a long and healthy life with low bone density. Melting your body into the floor. Because you're at home doing this practice, I highly recommend that you stay there for another 5 minutes. And when you do choose to finish your practice, remember, please, to roll to your side, to take a moment there and to help yourself up to sitting with a long spine. And when you do come to get on with your day, that you find your way to standing without rolling up through the spine. And that you take the practice with you as a possibility for your future confidence and health. Thank you so much for practicing with me. Rest there a while. And if you want to reach out with any questions about the training, I'm very responsive, and there are dates coming up on my website very soon. Thank you so much.